And we're recording. Okay. So as I said, what gets recorded is what you see up on the screen with any sound over the top of it. So we're going to start out tonight looking at our administrative stuff. So the first question, is there anybody in here that has never been into Blackboard? That's a good thing. So everybody's been into Blackboard, so we know how to get there. And we know how to log in. If you have any issues later, let me know and I'll make sure you get in there. Just so you know, Blackboard is not required for this class, but internet access is, whether it's here at one of the schools or at home. All our homework and quizzes are done online. Blackboard, like I said, is not required, but has a lot of stuff out there that's going to be really handy for you. So if you click on Math with Business Apps, what this is just an introduction telling you what's on the Blackboard site and where to find it. There's an important part here. I did send this out to you, I believe, Saturday or Sunday, maybe even last Friday. How many of you have already logged into my math lab and registered for this class? Okay, good. That's the first step. It's going to be one of the first things you have to do tonight or in the next day or two to make sure you can do the homework for next week. Is you have to be in my math lab. And this little announcement here, this section of the announcement tells you how to do that. The web address, and we will go there and we'll look through it here in just a bit, is www.mymathlab.com. And you need to know this course code, HOF 47832 for this class. I'll write that down so I have it for later to... So in Blackboard then, after this opening announcement, most of the useful stuff will be in the course information. You will be able to check your grades. I will post grades every couple of weeks. I'll update the grades from my math lab into Blackboard so you have them. And I also will make sure I update them every time there's a unit test. I update all the online grades as well. So you'll be able to look at that and you'll be able to see a list of your grades. Right now there's nothing out there, no assignments out there. In course information, you'll find my contact information. Best way to get a hold of me is email. I have the computer right here in the classroom, so I do check my email a couple times a day. If you have to use a phone, you can call, and I'm at extension 5361. And I do have it set up that I at least get an alert when I have a voicemail, so I know to go check it. Otherwise, I spend about 30 seconds a day in my office. That's about all I can stand in the cubicles. If you're ever on campus here in Rice Lake and you need to find me, it's in this classroom, 162, that you would look for me. I'll show you the syllabus in a second. My schedule is posted here. If you are here in Rice Lake and you want to look for me, that'll tell you when I'm available. You can see where it says office. That would, again, you'd look for me here in this room. For this class, I am available for the 2 hours before this class. Actually, that's not scheduled as office anymore. Those office hours got moved up to here because of some classes getting canceled, but there's a good chance I will be here for a while, at least before class starts each night. For those of you at the other sites, if you have any questions and you need to talk to me, if working through email isn't working for you, let me know and I can have them open up the ITV connection early. I can have them open up at 5 or even 4:30 if we have to, so we can go over stuff before class if we need to. So just let me know if you start having questions, or if you just in a particular week you have questions, I can get that connection open for us. The syllabus we're going to go over in a little bit. I'm going to open that right now so it's there. Also, after tonight, at the bottom of this page, again, this is the course information page, will be the links for the class videos. So I'm going to actually just quick flip to last semester's class so you can see what that looks like. So this is last semester's class. You can see all the same stuff we just saw, but then now we have all these links down here. This first one, and I'm going to post one similar to this later tonight. This first one is some basics that are actually stuff that comes kind of before what we're going to be talking about tonight. So if you need a little bit of review of basic math before you're comfortable doing homework on what we've talked about tonight, I will have that posted out there for you. and then we'll have the videos from the classes. Our first test, we have 3 lectures and then our first test. So our first test will be 3 weeks from tonight, just so you're ready. So what does that come out to be? The 15th of February. All those links look like, by the way, sometimes you can click on them and they work. It's usually best if you copy and paste them into a browser. And you can see it's just, first we gotta wait for their ads. YouTube has to pay their bills too. So you see this is all the link is as I showed you, what appears on your screen with my voice or any sound over the top of it. So like I said, if you want to pop some popcorn, invite some friends over. If you charge admission, I get half of the gate. So anyway, let's go through the syllabus. I'll try to be serious for a little while. At this time of night, you guys never do get the best of me, I'll warn you. After 4 o'clock at night, I just want to go to sleep. So. I get here at 7:30 every morning, so you can tell my voice is fading, and this is not my best time of day to be teaching. We'll do the best we can. So again, here's my contact information again, just like before. You guys are all here, so you know where and when to be for class, so I don't need to go over that. Course description. So this is a class that is designed specifically around business applications. We do some basic math and problem solving in algebra, solving basic equations, a lot of percents. We cover some basic math tonight just to get you up to speed and ready to go. And then it's a course very heavily based in problem solving throughout the semester. So word problems are now our friends. If not, you'll get used to them, don't worry. The second unit is on merchandising. We'll be looking at markups, markdowns, invoicing, stuff like that. And then there's also some business statistics in the second unit. Then the third unit is on investment, simple interest, compound interest, annuities. A lot of long formulas, really. It's not tough concepts. It's just figuring out what concept to use. Other than that, you guys are all here, so you don't need to know the prereqs. You guys have all placed into the class. If you are looking at the concepts for the course and you're thinking this is stuff I already know, there is a test out for the class if you want to try it. It's $20 a credit. So being a 3-credit class, it costs you $60 to attempt the test out. If you pass the test out with an 80% or better, you get your money back for the class and you get credit for the class. If you don't pass the test out, you lose your $60 and you're stuck back here with me. I will be honest with you though, I've been grading these test outs for about 16 years now. The pass rate's about 1 out of 5 people, just under 20% that take it actually pass it. And most of that is just because of the annuities and those applications or stuff, unless you've had specific training in investment and the training is focused on the formulas and calculations rather than using tables, there's just no way that's something you're gonna already know. So if you're thinking about doing the test out, come talk to me first and I'll make sure that you know exactly what to expect so you know whether you're prepared. All right, so supplies, textbook. Hopefully you guys have this one here. Probably can't see it well on camera, but it says business math. It is a math with business applications down below. It has our course number. This is custom published for WITC. That has a couple of advantages. One is the textbook costs about half of what it normally would if we bought the whole textbook. So it saves you, what is it, about $180 now? So it saves you about $170, $180 to have it done this way. The disadvantage is at the end of the semester when you go to sell it, nobody's going to buy it. It's not worth anything to sell back. So I'll tell you that up front. But it saves you, buying them back, they used to give you like $30 for them. So I figure it's more important to save the $170 up front than to get that back. You must have access to my math lab. That should be a little card that comes in the inside front cover of your book. There should be a little card with a little scratch off thing on it. That is your access code for My Math Lab. If you bought a used book, you may have to buy My Math Lab online. And I'll show you how we can do it either way when we look at some stuff here in a little bit. Other supplies. It is highly recommended that you have a scientific calculator. I recommend you have one with powers and fractions on it. If you have a graphing calculator, if you had to have one for high school or had kids had to have one for high school, you're welcome to use it. That one does most things really well. Like something like this. The one thing the graphing calculator does not do well is fractions. So that's one thing that the cheap ones actually do better. If you have a scientific calculator, chances are it's good enough. If you're not sure, let me know and I'll be happy to take a look at it for you and let you know if it does everything you need. If you don't have one, the one that I recommend is the Texas Instruments TI-30. And I recommend that you get the TI-30. It's actually Roman numeral 2. The reason I recommend that one is a 2-line display so that it can handle some of the longer formulas at the end of the course. The 1-line display can't handle some of them. You have to put it in 2 pieces. I'm going around this room. I see a few of you already have that calculator. That's perfect. So if you have a different one, they work just fine. It's just this one's the easiest one to enter stuff into. It's like $12 or $13. I don't think our bookstore has them. Usually you have to go to Walmart or Shopko for them. If our bookstore has them, they're probably charging like 18 or 20 bucks for them anyway. I do recommend get the solar if you can, just because I have maybe a half a dozen of them up in my desk in my office that have dead batteries. And the calculator is like 12 or 13 bucks, and the batteries are 8 or 9 bucks. Like I said, any other calculator you have will most likely work. I do not recommend using cell phone calculators in here, just because at the beginning of the course they'll work fine, but for the more advanced stuff at the end, they will not work very well at all. I'm not saying you can't use them. I'm just saying it's probably going to be a struggle for you with them. Okay, grading. 80% of your grade in here is on the 3-unit tests and then the quizzes in My Math Lab. So your 3-unit tests are 100 points each. So that's 300 points. You have quizzes in My Math Lab that are 10 points each. And you have homework that's 2 points each. Homework, there are, I believe it's 13 homeworks and 11 quizzes. So you can see that adds up to about 436 points. My screen is flickering on me. I got bad connection here. Hopefully that works a little bit better. I will normally, one of the reasons there's 11 quizzes, I will normally drop your lowest quiz grade in this class. Out of the 13 homeworks, I will drop your 3 worst homework assignments. So that means that ends up being 420 points that this class is graded out of. The only way I've ever had people fail this class is by not doing quizzes and homeworks, by missing the homeworks and quizzes. I'm just going to be frank with you. I've taught this class. This is my 17th year teaching this class, and it's people that are here every week and doing the work. I think I've had maybe 2 people in 17 years that didn't make it through. So it's just a matter of effort for the course pretty much. This class, if you get behind, you can make up quizzes up to 1 week past the due date. So I understand people get busy or have work schedule or weather, internet outage or whatever. If you miss a quiz, let me know. I will open them up to 1 week past the due date. The 20% then, your homework, your homework assignments that I'll show you in My Math Lab, and participation. Basically, that just means be here, don't upset the instructor. As you can see, I'm really hard to get along with. Standard WITC grade scale. So I'm sure you guys have seen that a few times already this week. And our standard policies, withdrawing or dropping a course. The only thing I really want to say about that is don't just disappear on me. Two things: don't just stop coming and hope the course goes away, because then you end up with an F, and you got to deal with that for financial aid and all sorts of other things. Also, don't just drop the course without talking to someone. I prefer you talk to me, but even if you don't, talk to a counselor at least, because sometimes there's unanticipated consequences with financial aid and other things that can be a problem. So make sure you at least talk to someone before you drop a course. Final grades you guys will see at the end of the semester. Standard college policies: don't cheat, don't do stuff you're not supposed to, all that good stuff. If you have any needs, whether you have a diagnosed disability or just maybe you struggle in math or you're nervous taking tests or whatever, if you need a quiet room or whatever you need, even if it's not a diagnosed disability, just let me know. I'll do whatever I can to help make things a little easier on you. And it's almost never is there a situation that we can't find some way to make it a little bit better for you. Other than that, just a quick note about the videos. Like I said, classes are recorded and they are posted publicly. So if anybody has issues with that, come talk to me and we'll see if we can't make you feel better about it. And then there's our 3 units again: basic algebra and problem solving, and merchandising and investments. Any questions on procedures or syllabus?
How quick will this be posted online?
The recording? On a good night, I'll have them posted before I leave here tonight. Each recording takes 15 or 20 minutes to process for me to post. So sometimes if I'm tired, I don't get it done before I leave, and it'll be posted usually by noon tomorrow. Worst case scenario, it'll be posted by the end of the day tomorrow. Any other questions? Okay. So I mentioned all this stuff about my math lab. So when you type in mymathlab.com, make sure it allows pop-ups, because my math lab does use pop-ups. For you guys, if it's your first time here, if you haven't registered yet, you'll go down here to register a student. Now, even if you've used my math lab for another class before, if you haven't registered for this class, you still have to go down here and click register now, and you're going to click on as a student. That's just going to tell you what you need. You need an email address. I highly recommend you use your WITC email address. That's just easier if there are issues. The course ID, that's the one I showed you before, the HOFF 47832. And then you need some way to pay for it. The access code in your textbook counts as paying for the website. So either you have to have that access code or you have to pay with a credit card. So click register now and it'll take you through the whole circus of registering. First thing you need is that code. That's the HOFF 47832. That tells my math lab which course it is you want to be in. Now, if you had pre-algebra and were in my math lab before, or if you've taken this course and been in my math lab before, you can just put in your username and password right here, and it'll take you to the next step, which is getting your code out of your book. If you have never used my math lab before, if you don't have an account, you'll click create. You're going to put in your email address. Again, I highly recommend you use WITC's email address. Create a username and a password. Make sure you write these down. Every semester I have 1 or 2 people that create their account. They go home and they can't log back in. And it's because they forgot their password, or they thought they remembered their password, and my math lab made them use a number or non-alphabetic character, and they forgot what they changed it to or whatever, and it's really kind of a pain to reset your password. There's nothing I can do for forgotten passwords. You have to go through Pearson's customer service, and sometimes you can sit there waiting for 25, 30 minutes for somebody to answer. So make sure you write all this stuff down as you're entering it in here. Once you click accept the license agreement, you'll click create an account. And then that'll take you to a page where you either use a credit card to buy access or you enter that nice, what is it, like a 32-digit code out of your book or whatever. It's kind of tedious. I wish there was a better way to do it. So once you've done that, every time you go back into my math lab, you'll just click sign in up here. Put in your username, your password. And you guys may only have one class here. If you had pre-algebra, that might still be listed out here. This is business math. I see I've got 12 of you in there already, so that means a good chunk of you have already got started on it. So when you enter in here, you'll see this first page here is called your dashboard or your home page. You can see there's actually some due dates and homework assignments already listed up here. Those are your homework assignments. Now, you can work as far ahead on homework as you want to. I don't recommend that you go past the first exam. So just a little bit of a warning, because if you get past that, then you get too much stuff in your head and you get confused. If you just click on homework over on the left side here, it'll give you a list of just the homework assignments. You'll notice right in the title for the homework assignments is the due date. So homework 1 is due February 1st. So that is next week already. It's due at 6 p.m. So basically at the start of class. Then there's a homework every week except for on weeks that we have tests. Quizzes and tests, well, you'll notice right now there that all that's listed are the 3 tests. Quizzes will appear when they're available. Quizzes will be available for just over a day. So like next week, there'll be a quiz. It'll become available actually just before class starts. I think they come available at 4 o'clock. So they'll become available before class, and they will stay there until, so they come available at 4 o'clock Wednesday. They will still be out there until 11:59 p.m. Thursday. So it's about 32 hours that they're available. Now again, that's a decent sized window, but if something does come up and you can't get it done, let me know right away. I'll give you up to a week to make up late quizzes. Right now, like I said, you see the test appears out there. Your first test, as I said, is February 15th. That is not done in my math lab. I just put that notice up there so you know when the tests are coming. Those are done paper and pencil in class. So starting next Wednesday, your quiz will appear. Your first quiz will appear at the top of that list for you so you can take it. If you scroll down, there's a bunch of other stuff down here. These are not part of the course. These are just standard review quizzes that are provided by the textbook. But if you're struggling with chapter 1 and you want to go back and review a little more, you can do a review quiz, pre-test, post-test. That goes back through the stuff in chapter 1. Now, I'll warn you, we don't even do chapter 1 in here. There isn't even a chapter 1 in your textbook. So probably don't need to review that stuff. I'm going to go back to the homework for a second. So as you're taking the homework, you'll click on homework 1 and it gives you a list of questions. They do get a little smaller as the semester goes on, by the way. They're not all 40 or 50 questions like that. Let's say we're working on a question, like number 23 here. Couple of things I want to point out. If you're working on this question, you're wondering, where in the book is this? There's 2 things you can do. First, right here, that says 3.1.7. What that is saying is this is in the textbook, chapter 3, section 1. And then if you really want to get technical, if you look at the end of section 1, it's similar to question number 7 at the end of chapter 3, section 1. So the questions in my math lab, you can actually look in the book and find similar questions to them. Or if you click over here on question help, it brings down this menu and you can actually click right here. We'll see how fast the connection is tonight. If it's earlier, it wasn't pulling up the textbook very quickly. If you click on that link, it should pull you up an electronic copy of the textbook. There it is. So this is the page in the text, the section in the textbook that these questions come from. This is section 3.1. So you can look through that and read through it if you need to. If that doesn't help and you're working on this question, you really don't know what to do. Sometimes they have a video for the question. This one does. I'm not going to click on that because it'll take a long time to load. You can click View an Example. What that does is it'll show you a similar question and it'll walk you through a step-by-step solution. So you hit continue, it takes you to the next step. So then you click close, it takes you back to this problem and you can try to solve this problem. If you're still stumped and don't know how to solve this, well, you can go up here and say, help me solve this. What that does is it takes you through this question, step by step. Now this is going to make you work for it a little bit more. Instead of just giving you the steps, it's going to ask you a step-by-step question. You're going to have to put it in here. What is the whole number part of that? Oh, the whole number part of it is it 0? And it's going to ask you, okay, what's the next part? And it's going to answer it step by step, but you're going to have to do some of the work to get through the steps. So it'll help you that way. Once you close that, you'll notice this question changes. These are algorithmic. So it changes that question. So now you can go back and you can answer this question. It's just going to be different numbers. You will get 3 attempts to answer a question. If you get it wrong 3 times, it'll give you the option to go to the next question. Let's say I really want to answer that one though. So I go back to it and see it's got the little red X there saying I did it wrong. I can come over here and I can say, oops, where is it? Down here it says similar question. I can click similar question and it'll take the red X away and it'll give me a new question, just different numbers, different words. This one may not have that option. It looks like this one does not have that option, but most of the time it'll redo the question with different numbers and it'll give you 3 more chances to answer it. Now if you're answering the question and you're still really, really stumped, you've done these things, the view the example, help me solve this, and you still don't know what to do, you can click on Ask My Instructor. And what that'll do is it'll send me an email directly. It automatically tells me what question you're stuck on, gives you a spot where you can type a message and say, well, I know what the numbers are, but I don't know where to put the decimal point or whatever. Or I know the answer, but I can't figure out how to type it in. That's usually the biggest question I get. And then send it to me. Do not just send me an email saying, I have a question on problem number 17. The main reason for that is these are algorithmic. So if I go into problem number 17, it'll be a similar question to the one you're answering, but it won't be the same one. So my answer might not make sense because there's different numbers in it. So if you hit the Ask My Instructor, that sends me an exact copy of the question you're working on, so I can use those numbers, I can answer it. A couple of you have sent me questions already from my math lab. And a couple of you have used the Ask My Instructor, and I've responded to those. If you haven't used the Ask My Instructor, I haven't responded just because I don't want to confuse you. I know a couple of people actually screenshotted the question and sent it to me. Unfortunately, WITC's email system, pictures come through in low res, so I can't read what's in the little pictures. So unfortunately, I can't read those. So if you've done that, if you've already sent me a question, please go back to that question and resend it through Ask My Instructor. That way I can read it and see the exact question you're asking. So it's quite a little tool. Homework is graded not for accuracy, but for effort. So if you've gone through the homework and you're struggling, and let's say out of the 38 questions, you've got 20 of them wrong. When I go to grade it, what I will see, I don't want to open it because some people have started already. When I go in my grade book, it'll show me that you have 18 out of 38 correct, but it'll also show me 3 hours and 20 minutes spent on the assignment. So I know you're putting in the time, you're just not getting it. Homework, like I said, is graded for effort. You will get the points for the homework if you put in the effort, no matter how well you do on the questions. Now, if I go in there and you've got 3 out of 38 questions correct, you've answered every question, but I look and see you spent 7 minutes, I know you probably just flipped through and put in answers quick to try to get it done. So then you probably only get partial credit for that. So just so you guys are aware, homework is, to me, the homework is a learning process. It's to help you learn the material if you didn't get enough out of a lecture. The quizzes are graded for accuracy. So on a quiz, if you get 75%, that's 7.5 out of 10 points. Any questions? Okay. So I said, for those of you that are not in my math lab yet, try to get that done as soon as possible. And if you have any problems, let me know, and we'll make sure we help you get that figured out. Okay, so on to material. Those of you that have had me before for pre-algebra from another class, this first little bit might be a little repetitive for you. But I want to make sure we're all speaking the same language. As you saw, this class starts out with some pretty basic concepts. Connection working there? There's a couple reasons for that. One is a lot of people need a little bit of review before we jump into things. Also, I've found through the years that the struggles people have with some of the more complex topics, like algebra and stuff like that, come from not really understanding how numbers work. And most of the time we were never shown. We were just shown how to do things and never why. So to go way back, we're going to talk about one of the most basic concepts for a minute here, called a number. Most of us, if I put the number 4 up, if I put a 4 up there, just a show of hands, how many of you would say that that's a number? Most of you would, right? Technically, that is a numeral. It is just an amount. It tells us how many of something. To truly be a number, it not only has to tell us how many, but it also has to tell us of what. So I might put 4 cows there. So 4 is the amount, telling us how much. I'm going to call that the count. And what is it we have 4 of? In this case, it's the cows. I'm going to call that the name. Now, my purpose of doing this is not because I'm not one of those teachers that forces you to label everything or I mark it wrong. And the reason I'm going through this is that these 2 pieces of a number play a very important role in our basic operations. So if we look at our 2 most basic math operations, addition and multiplication. Now, some of you might be wondering, where did subtraction go and where did division go? Well, subtraction and addition are really the same operation. It's just subtraction is the reverse of addition. So any rules that apply to addition also apply to subtraction. And the same goes for multiplication and division. Division is just the reverse of multiplication. So let's look at a basic addition problem here. Let's say we have 3 inches plus 6 inches. What are we going to get? 9 inches. Very good. Probably not quite worth your $450 for the course yet, huh? Let's take a look at what's happening with our count and our name. We have a count of 3 and 6. They become a 9. We combine the counts. We're adding numbers, so we combine them with addition. If we look at the names, we have inches, and they become inches. We just keep the same name. The name does not change. So, again, not terribly interesting yet, but let's look at multiplication. If I have 3 inches times 6 inches, first of all, are you all familiar with the dot for multiplication instead of the X? Okay. 3 inches times 6 inches is 18, but it's not inches.
Oh wait, that's what's that being?
Inches, square inches, inches squared, yes. If you think about it, if we're going to be multiplying two dimensions like that, chances are we're looking at finding the area of a rectangle or some other area. So if we look at what happened there, we have our count still of 3 and 6. They became 18, so we still combine the counts. This time we're multiplying, so we combine them with multiplication. If we look at our names, we have inches and inches. This time it became square inches. So when we multiply, we also combine the names. So when we add or subtract, we keep the same name. When we multiply or divide, we combine the names. Again, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it explains all of the little rules we've seen for all the other forms of numbers we work with. And not only that, but it also explains what numbers can be used in each operation and why. For example, let's say we have 5 cows and 2 boys. Do we get 7 cowboys? No. Or if I did it the other way around, 2 boys and 5 cows, do I get 7 boy cows? Not quite, right? Anybody here with a farming background? A couple of you? You can tell me that that's a whole bunch of bullshit. I know, a long way to go for a joke, but there's a point behind it. The point is, when we add numbers, we're going to keep the same name, which implies that we had to start with the same name. We can't add cows to boys because which name do we keep? We have to have the same name when we add or subtract before we can combine the numbers. A little bit more practical side of that is, let's say we have 5 feet plus 2 pounds instead of 5 cows and 2 boys. What do we get when we add those? 5 feet and 2 pounds, exactly. They have different names. We cannot combine those with addition or subtraction. However, over here, if I had 5 feet times 2 pounds, when we multiply, we combine counts. 5 times 2 is 10. And we also combine the names. Feet times pounds is just foot-pounds. It's a unit of torque, or if you're dealing with structural engineering, it's a unit of moment. When we multiply or divide, since we're going to combine the names, we do not need the same name. I'll put do on the front of that so it makes a little more sense. So because we're going to combine names, we do not have to have the same name to start out with when we multiply or divide. This explains a lot of the basic rules that we're going to see going through our other forms of numbers as we go through the night. This has all come together for us a little bit. Before we take our break here at the end of our first hour, though, I want to show you how this fits in with larger numbers rather than just single-digit numbers. The concept that ties a lot of this together is the concept of place value. Place value is another one, just like numbers, is a simple concept that people don't fully understand. It's really way more powerful than most people give it credit for. So we're going to start at the end of the number and work our way backwards. So this last digit at the end of the number is what place value? The ones. Then we have tens and hundreds. And those are our 3 place values, and they're repeated over and over again. Ones, tens, hundreds. Ones, tens, hundreds. I'll warn you, my handwriting sometimes is horrible when I get impatient. So if there's anything up here that you can't read, my spelling also sucks too, by the way. So if there's anything up here that you can't read, I promise you I intended it to be in English, but it's probably either horribly misspelled or just poor handwriting. So don't be afraid to ask me what something says. I won't be offended, I swear. So these first set of place values here are what we call the base group. The next set is the thousands group, and then the millions, and then it would be billions and trillions and so on, right? If we name a place value, except for in the base group, we name the place value and its group. So this is just the tens place. This is the 10,000s. This is the 10 millions, and so on. Now, I'm not going to go over how to pronounce numbers. I'm going to assume you guys can do that. But the place values are very important for a lot of things. For rounding, it's important that we know our place values. If I ask you to round 3,874 to the nearest 100, we know what that is. Where is the nearest, what digits in the hundreds place here? The 8, very good. So we find the 8. That's telling, what that 8 is telling us. When we're rounding, what it's really asking us to do is to look at a number line. And let's say our number line is to the nearest 100, means our number line is only numbered in hundreds. So 3,700, 3,800, 3,900, 4,000, and so on. 3,874 is somewhere in here. It's asking us physically which one is it closest to. On the number line, we can see it's closer to 3,900. We don't want to draw out that number line every time, though, so what we do is we find that digit that's in the hundreds place, and we look at the next one. The 7 is bigger than 5, so it's telling us we're closer to the next one up. The 3,800 tells us, the 8 here tells us we're between 3,800 and 3,900. The 7 tells us we're closer to the larger one. And that's all I'm going to say about rounding. I'm going to assume you guys are good with rounding. The other thing those place values are important for, when we look at algebraic numbers next week, we're going to do the same thing. But what we're used to seeing for numbers is really an abbreviation. 4,826 we're used to seeing like that, but that's just an abbreviation. The full form of that number looks like this. 4,000s or 4 1,000s, if you prefer to write it that way, and 800s, and 2 10s, and 6 1s. When you write it out like this in its full form, some textbooks call that the expanded form, you see that every digit has a count and a name. This is not just an 8, it's 8 hundreds. And when you do it like that, it explains why we do our operations with basic numbers the way we do. I have 326 plus 432. If I write those out in their full form, 300, hundreds, 2 10s, and 6 1s. 400s, and 3 10s, and 2 1s. We said earlier that when we add or subtract, we can only combine things that have the same name. We've always been taught that when you add or subtract numbers, you're going to line up the columns, right? Well, the reason for that is we can only combine the 10s with other 10s, the 1s with other 1s, hundreds with other hundreds. Writing it out in its full form like this, we see they have to line up. So then we can go ahead and just add. 6 and 2 make 8, 2 and 3 make 5, 3 and 4 make 7. I realize that most of you are going to use a calculator for adding those, so I'm not going to go over a lot of examples. One thing I do say is estimate a little bit. This is 3 and 4. I'm expecting something around 700. Have that idea of what you're expecting the answer to be in the back of your mind before you punch it in. I see a lot of answers that come out of the calculator. If you hit the key wrong or didn't press it hard enough, it gives you a really ridiculous answer. If you took an estimate before you started, you'd catch them. But once you start punching numbers on that calculator, it's really easy to just accept what it tells you and go on. So I always, and I'm not going into a lot of details here of what I mean, but I say use the calculator conscientiously. Don't just blindly punch in the numbers. Think about what the numbers should be giving you so that you know if something really goes out of whack with the calculator. Subtraction is going to do the same type of thing. So we're going to jump to multiplication here quick. Let's have 32 times 21. So that's 3 tens and 2 ones times 2 tens and 1 1. When we multiply, we do not have to have the same name. So what that means is these 3 tens here can not only be combined with these tens, but they can also combine with the 1 1. In fact, every digit in this number can be combined with every digit in the other number. And that's all that our long multiplication is an organized process to make sure that every digit in one number gets combined with every digit in the other number. So to do this, we generally pick one number to start with, and that does vary by region. If you're raised in Central America, you'd start with the top number. Most of us have been taught you start with the bottom number and the last digit. So we start with that 1 1 there, and we're going to multiply the last digit of the first number first. Multiplying the counts, 1 times 2 is 2. And multiplying the names, 1s times 1s is still 1s. Then we're sticking with this digit. We're moving on to the next digit of the top number. Multiplying the counts, 1 times 3 is 3. 1s times 10s is 10s. Now we've multiplied every digit in the top number by that 1. So we're going to move on to the next digit. What have we been taught we have to do down here before we move over? Either move over a spot and leave a blank or put in a 0, right? And the reason for that is going to come right here. 2 tens times 2 ones. We multiply the counts. 2 times 2 is 4, but we also multiply the names. 10s times 1s is 10s. Putting in that 0 just is assuring us that our 10s stay with our other 10s. Then we have to do the 2 tens times 3 tens. 2 times 3, 6. 10s times 10s is hundreds. And now we can combine digits that are the same. We got 2 and 0. 3 and 4 is 7 tens and 6 hundreds. So 672. Now again, I'm not going to go through a lot of examples because you guys have the calculators and I know you're going to use them. And that's all I'm going to say about whole numbers for this course. If you have any questions, I will post some background videos that go through whole numbers in more detail for you for the lecture video for tonight. Does anybody have any questions?
Sure, that you back in elementary school.
Well, thank you. One of the problems I've actually found is